welcome back to another episode of the Lavender Lounge, hosted by the Women of Wisdom here at Prince George's Community College. I'm your host, Mattia Bryant, and as we're nearing the end of Women's History Month, what better way to wrap it up than with a topic on love? Today's theme is But First Me. Love, life, and relationships. And with that being said, I want to welcome our very special guest, Dr. Johnny Parker, to the Lavender Lounge. Mr. Parker, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you have to say about love, life, and relationships.
Well, glad to be here, Mattia. Well, I'm a native New Yorker and Jamaican, New York, and that's significant because my wife is Jamaican. I met her in college, and we've been married 33 years. I call her my Jamaican sensation. She calls me her bald wonder. We have 3 sons. I'm an executive performance coach. I work with corporate America, Fortune 500s, and I've been an adjunct professor at Johns Hopkins. And I'm also a relational architect. I started my career in marriage and family. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about my story.
Thank you for joining us today, and I'm so glad that we're going to have this opportunity to get a different perspective on love. So with that, let's get started. As society evolves, so does the dynamics of relationships. I know for my generation, oftentimes the term talking or exclusive or seeing each other are sort of interchangeable. So could you try to provide a clear lens on what the term dating actually means?
Yeah, you know what? It's always evolving, right, Mattia? It's always evolving on what it means now, and then you got courting, and then it's just my intended. So it's always evolving in terms of what dating means. Usually, for most people, dating means that I'm serious about having a relationship with someone. I want to be in a relationship in a loving relationship with a person. I could be just with one person, or depending on the understanding, I could be dating you and multiple people. So to me, that's the mindset that I want to be in a relationship. I want to have something special, but it may not be just with one person. It may be with multiple people. But then I think it's the next level when people start getting into more of a sort of a committed relationship where the dating goes to the next level of, hey, and thinking about, can this go to marriage?
Nice. And also, like, I like to say when I'm dating, I know my mindset is you don't stop growing just because you're in a position where you feel like you don't have to.
Yeah.
So, what does self look like in a relationship? What should that look like in a relationship?
What I found is this, and I love what you said about when you open up the show about your story or something to that effect, first love you or something. But I like that because I think of it this way. Think of fly, FLY, as an acrostic: first love you, first lead you. That you first, what's important about dating that I stress all the time in my writing and my seminars, Mattia, is this: healthy me, strong we. I got to first be healthy. I got to know my story. Every person's life, male, female, is always telling a story. The question is your life telling the story that you wanted to tell? Here's the deal: no one gets the right to write your story. No one gets
Mhm.
to write RIGHT to write WRITE your story. Your story is your life is your story. But it's really important before I seek to be with a person, I got to be first lead me, FLY, first love me. I got to know my story before I try to connect with someone else's story.
And I also think because we're human and we generate a lot of energy in relationships within ourselves, it's kind of hard for us to maintain healthy relationships with the people around us. So, what do you think is the most important element in maintaining those healthy relationships?
I think the first thing is that you have to make a relationship that's emotionally safe. Emotionally safe people take responsibility for their life. Unhealthy and people who are not healthy emotionally blame the other people for their life. So emotional safety is really, really important because that's ownership. I got to own my challenges and my strengths. I don't blame other people for my challenges and strengths. I don't plagiarize other people. I own my stuff, and so that's really, really critical, Mattia, and vital. Is first know my story. I got to own my story, and take ownership of my life, and that's really, really vital in moving towards. And I talk a lot about that, by the way, in this book I've written called Turn the Page, where I say first you got to demand bold truth. You got to first own your challenges and your strengths. All of us, many people have had trauma in their life. And if we're not processing that, we bring our stuff, we bring our baggage, our unhealed parts to another person's story.
I also think challenges, when we're talking about challenges, a big challenge of mine was adulting. I dated
Yeah.
when I was like in high school, so learning how to grow up with that person, kind of get out of that childish mindset, and also talk money. How soon do you believe that finances, credit should be discussed when dating?
Well, I don't think it's a number like date number 7. Do we need to have that conversation? I don't think it's like that. But I think it's important. I think it's the sense of um how emotional it goes back to the emotional safety. How am I be do I am I beginning to feel some sense of emotional safety with this person? I think there's always 3 questions that are at play that we gotta make sure that as individuals in dating, and it's true in marriage as well. And here are the 3 questions, Mattia, that are really important for people to hear. Can I trust you? Okay. Can I trust you? That's critical. Do you care about me? Do I really feel you got my back, that you get me, and you feel me? And it's not just sexually either, but emotionally and spiritually, mentally. And then are you committed to this? I get this. So there's got to be that. And so those 3 questions. And so the more that we have a yes, 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 I trust you. Yes, I feel you care. Yes, I feel you're committed to this story, this dating story. Then at some point along the way, we begin to have conversations, or what might the next level look like if we're going to move towards marriage? What might that look like? And what kind of financial story do you want for yourself? What kind of financial story do you imagine having with another person? That's the kind of language I think we need to ask, and that's when we can get into the credit and those kind of things. But we can't do that early, because I'm not doing that. I don't feel safe with you. I don't trust you. I don't know if you're committed to my story or what's going on. And I think the other thing that's important is this. I personally believe you need to see someone through a year. Why is that? You need to see a person through all 4 seasons, because in springtime they may be really, really excited, like it's March now. But in summertime they may be really off the hook excited. But they start moving into autumn and winter, and they off the chain in terms of unhealthy behavior. And so you need to see a person through all 4 seasons and see how they show up.
I want to go back to what you were saying about trusting. It's all about asking yourself, can I trust this person? I'm kind of going to shift it to a two-part question. So,
Okay.
in looking at trust, let's say there's like a situation going on in a relationship. How do you decipher whether that's like, oh, it's a meaningless agree to disagree, or like it's time for me to move on?
Yeah, it really depends on. There's no white or black answer to that, Mattia. It really depends
Mhm.
on what the issue is. There definitely should be some issues that are deal breakers, um, but it really depends on what the issue is. That um, that's not the story that I want in terms of dating and relationship. And so, and I really think also is this, and you in mature, healthy dating, it's always a mindset of leaving others better off than how you found them. So we may not marry, but I want to be guilty as a man with a woman if I'm dating. I want to be guilty of high integrity. I want to hopefully leave that woman better off, and hopefully she leaves me better off if I'm single and dating. I want to be guilty of high integrity, not high immorality and high lack of character. So whether we marry or not, hopefully in healthy dating, we are leaving each other inspired and better off than how we found each other.
And leaving somebody and learning how to let go. But we also have that perspective of, I want to stay, I want to fix this relationship. Do you believe that a relationship can be rekindled after broken trust?
I can I do believe that. I do believe it can. Now it's hard work. Relationships are hard work, right? It's hard work. And so that hard work, Matia, requires that there's got to be ownership. That's why ownership is really, really big deal. It's got to be the ownership of going back to the person and said, I own my stuff. You mess up, you fess up. So you got to own it. And then the person who, what I call, violated the emotional bank of trust, they must be willing to say, hey, this matters to me, our relationship matters. Here's how I'm going to rebuild trust. Oftentimes the trust means that you've cheated on the person, or the violation means that oftentimes it's you've cheated on me. Um, and so that may get into things like, hey, you have access to my cell phone. um, you know, that may be a bit strong, but depending on the level of relationship, if this thing is like moving towards engagement, moving towards marriage, and if the relationship matters, then you need to be willing to have those conversations on what do you. Here's a good question I would ask: what do you need from me to feel emotionally safe again? If I rob the bank of trust, I'm saying to another person, what do you need from me to feel emotionally safe again?
Mhm. And as we start to wrap up, one last question for you. How can we not allow a couple of bad experiences alter our perception of love?
Yeah, great question. See, that goes back to knowing my story. I got to first be really clear on who I am. I call it the Fab Five, Mattia. Who I am. What do I want? That's question number two. Who I am, number one. What do I want, number two? Number three, why do I want this relationship? Number four, how and who am I becoming? That's my integrity. Number five, how do I want people to experience me? That's inspirational. So I think the Fab Five, asking those questions, can give clarity on my story, healthy me, strong we. And I just want to encourage people to check out, I wrote a book around a lot of this stuff called Turn the Page, Unlocking the Story Within You, that can help the audience really get clarity on their story personally and in dating.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today for this conversation. It's been so insightful. And now that we have your book, we know more about you and where we can follow your journey. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of the Lavender Lounge. And thank Dr. Parker for joining this great conversation. Be sure to tune in to our next Lavender Lounge on the third Wednesday in April at noon.